See, I believe I'm live. Hey guys, what is this delay? Testing one, two, testing one, two. Can't figure it out, guys. If anybody has any advice or tips on how to get this together. Oh no, I think I'm about to cry. Sorry. How y'all doing out there? If I could just like look without talking, I think things might go well. But that is not how this works. Wait, okay. Oh, wait, maybe, hold on, guys. I think I know what I'm doing wrong. Hold on. Let's see something. Hello? You guys? You still there with me? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I am still live streaming. Hello, how are you? I think it's working now. I'm not sure what was happening, but hey, I'm Lisa K. Crawford. This is Lisa K. Crawford's Life Lounge, and we're kind of getting started here. And I'm trying to get into the space, get comfortable talking in the space. And bringing some good information and having some good topics, hoping that eventually I will develop an audience. Those of you who don't know me that well, I am an attorney by profession. I'm a real estate and business broker, residential and business broker, by profession. And I also work with people and help them with financial um, retirement planning, things in that area. So, a couple different things that I do. Today, I have my hat on. It's kind of dealing with real estate and economics and the impact of the governor of Florida making a decision to pursue rolling back property taxes for Florida citizens. And the government, the local government of, or I should say, the state government of Florida is mostly Republican, and so the Democrats are just outnumbered. And this bill passed yesterday in the House to be able to put the issue on the November ballot, and the voters will decide whether or not to roll back property taxes in the state of Florida in November. And if the voters decide to do away with property taxes, it will have an effective date, most likely of January 2027, is what I'm reading. So I think this is all very interesting because, first of all, you have to ask yourself, well, if they can do away with property taxes so easily, if the state can just do away with the whole, why do we have them in the first place? Why do we ever need them in the first place? So to me, that's kind of like the first question. What was the purpose? What is the purpose for these property taxes? Well, we know the property taxes are used to take care of public services throughout various communities, municipalities, cities, things like that. Um, a lot of money that comes in helps to run the cities. And from what I'm reading online, there are going to be some budget shortfalls with some of these municipalities and these local governments. They are not going to have all the money that they need to do what it is that they do to run their cities. There's going to be some shortfalls. So these are some of the projections. And if I could share my screen, hold on for a second, guys. Y'all know I hope I do this right. So let's see if I do. Okay, hold on. Be patient. Wow, where are those documents at? Okay, so I had some documents out here, but I think I might have misplaced them now. But that's okay. Don't worry, we can still talk about this. I'm gonna try to find there was a certain article that I had out here that was talking about how this bill is going to have some negative effects. The property tax impact is not necessarily going to be a pretty thing, right? So this is House Joint Resolution 201. It proposes eliminating all non-school property taxes for homesteaded properties in the state of Florida beginning January 1st, 2027, pending voter approval. And it says right here that this potential amendment could drastically reduce annual home ownership costs and reshape the Florida real estate market. So this is something brand new, and we don't really know what kind of impact it's going to have per se. Uh, but we do know that this proposal did pass in the House, and it passed overwhelmingly because most of the folks who voted on this are Republicans, and it's just a handful of Democrats. And so, yeah, so they basically got their way. Whew, I'm trying to find, there's an article out there that talks about the negative impact of these property taxes. And that's what I'm trying to pull up so we can talk about some of that because, like I said, one of the projections is that it's going to cause budget shortfalls. And so if cities don't have enough money to run their cities, where are those funds going to come from, right? Where are those funds going to come from? So that's one thing that I think we have to think about. Um, the other thing is that from what I'm hearing is that there will be a lot more taxes placed on entertainment, um, consumer taxes, maybe overall tax rates on just consumer goods and products, services, hotels, entertainment. All of those things are going to become much more expensive. Can you imagine when these cities and municipalities lose about half of their budget? We're talking about this. It could have an impact of over $14.7 billion on local governments and municipalities. So how are they going to make up for these shortages? So that's one question I have. So yes, on one hand, it does seem like a great thing to do away with property taxes. But on the other hand, it looks like that there is going to be a cost that is going to have to be paid. And usually what happens is that the folks that end up paying these costs are going to be the people kind of at the lower economic echelon of the ladder. So it's going to be more expensive. It's going to cost more to do things. Maybe transportation costs will be even more. All of the things that really matter when you're strapped financially or, when you don't have a lot of disposable income, uh, those are the people that are going to, I think, pay the biggest price with removing property tax obligations. Of course, the school boards will still be able to charge their portion of property taxes that they pay. And the school board in Florida, my understanding, they charge you the maximum, the full market value tax rate. So whatever the market says your house is worth, I mean, you're getting taxed based on those values. It's not like with Florida homestead property, the house where you live in, there are homestead laws that protect those properties in Florida. And this bill would only protect your homestead, that place where you live, not your investment properties and things like that. And from what I was reading, there's only one exemption per residence, so it's not each individual. The exemption is going to follow the house, right? Um, but yeah, there is going to be some fallout. We don't know exactly what it's going to be. We do know from some of the research that's out here, there will be a negative cash impact of over $14 billion on local non-school property tax revenues. So if the state is losing, if counties, municipalities, cities are losing over $14 billion, I don't know. Something just seems really out of place about what's getting ready to happen. And from all I'm hearing, it's going to be fine for those who have money and access and wealth, but it's going to make it even tougher for those who don't have those things, right? And they say this is one of the most significant property tax reductions in the state's history. So we don't really have anything to measure this against. And that's kind of like the sad part. Let's see if I can find okay, here's a little bit more. I'm just reading some information out here to you on this. It says the proposed amendments to the Florida Constitution regarding property taxes are expected, again, to have a negative cash impact of billions, and a negative recurring impact of over 14 billion. We mentioned that. Again, this is on the non-school portion of property taxes. That's what this goes to. It will impact you paying taxes in fiscal year 27 and 28. See. If approved by voters, these amendments, again, will take place in January 2027 and are not subject to the governor's veto powers, because we know Governor DeSantis is behind this. He definitely supports this. So I can't even imagine that he would veto it once it gets to his desk. It says the Revenue Estimating Conference, this group out there, has not estimated the impact of this bill, and staff estimates the bill to have a zero or negative indeterminate impact on local government revenues because the constitutional amendment requires voter approval. That has, look, just because voters vote on this doesn't mean it's going to have a negative indeterminate impact. A negative impact, I don't really know what there, that term right there doesn't even make sense. A negative indeterminate impact. So this new law where we get rid of property taxes is going to have a quote unquote, this is what this group is saying, a zero or negative indeterminate impact. Sounds like a made up term, right? I don't know what they're saying there, but I believe it's going to have an impact because if you lose over $14 billion and you rely on that to run your city services and the things you provide for your citizens, and you don't have that money coming in anymore, something's going to go missing. Something's going to go undone, not getting taken care of. I don't know if that means more potholes and more things not being serviced like we're accustomed to our cities and municipalities doing, but there is going to be some price to be paid. So that's all I really have to say. I would love to know what your thoughts are on this. If you have any views, I'm going to try to check my YouTube and see if there's anyone checking in on this topic. But if you guys have any views on this, let me know. That would be very interesting. So I would love for you also to subscribe to this channel, to like it, to share it. My goal is to put out information that is going to be useful and helpful to our communities and just to educate people and to talk about things that really matter. Um, One of the other things that I wanted to talk about is getting your affairs in order. Recently, I had the pleasure of going out to one of the local funeral homes in our community here in Broward County, Florida. And I spoke to a bunch of community folks who came out to learn more about probate and estate planning. And I just want to say, if you all would like for me to come and speak with your group, either virtually, online, or in person, if it's local, I'll be glad to do that because I love talking to people about how to get their affairs in order, to avoid probate court, and to make sure that they can leave some type of legacy, that what they want to do when they finally leave this earth, right? So it's about, we all know that one day we're going to leave here. So we have to get our affairs in order. At least we should think about that. And even the Bible talks about laying up an inheritance in heaven, right? So we have to think about preparing and what we're leaving behind and what we lay up for the next generations to be able to build off of and to grow and to get to higher levels. That's part of our responsibility on this earth, and I love helping people to figure that out. If you do need help with any of that, don't hesitate to let me know. I'll be glad to have a conversation with you, and we can certainly talk about it, some of the things that you might be able to do to help yourself. And then finally today, there's one tip I'm going to give to everybody that should be really helpful to a lot of people. And that is, okay, first, I never did explain what probate is, but so let me back up just a little bit. Probate is a court supervised process of basically having taken in someone's assets and paying the debts upon their death, and then the remainder of the assets that they have, distributing those assets out to that deceased person's heirs or beneficiaries. So probate is a court process. But the reason why most people don't like it is because it involves lawyers and attorney's fees, money, and time. People are, let me turn this phone off. Pardon me, guys. I will get better over time with some of these things. But people people are grieving a lot of times. At the time they have to start going to court and dealing with court things over a deceased person. So it's tough for many different reasons. And sometimes when family affairs dynamics are out of whack and not organized very well, it just causes so much friction. And then you're involved in court, and then you have a judge and attorney's fees, and you might have people fighting you. It can be a lot. So a lot of people have just decided over time, look, I do not want to deal with that. To the best of my ability, I'm going to keep my affairs out of the court system. Yes, I'm going to find ways to make sure my estate or whatever I have, that it flows outside of that cumbersome court process. Um, and then you have to think about, there could be circumstances where the family members that you leave behind, they might not even have the funds to hire a lawyer. There are some people's probate estates that just sit out there for years, and the property, the real estate, everything is still in the deceased person's name 20 years later. I've seen it because people either didn't know what to do next, or maybe they weren't organized enough and they didn't have the money to hire lawyers to get things moving. And so I'm telling you, the nightmares, there's so many, just I call them horror stories, but I'm not gonna share all of the horror stories with you today. I want to say something that, kind of lets you know how serious it is. And then the last thing I want to say is that it's not that hard to really get your affairs in order. Um, I think sitting down with an attorney for a consultation would do anyone a world of good. You will learn so many things. You can get all your questions answered, and then you can walk away with some sense of direction and how to start getting your affairs in order, right? So that's what we'll talk about today. I'll be back on here and we'll talk about some different things, but just to circle back to our main key topic, Florida is getting rid of property taxes, y'all. Florida's getting rid of property taxes. I don't know what that's going to mean down the pipeline, because this is something this state has never done. Excuse me. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this all works out. Um, like I said, I believe that, public services are going to go lacking. There's going to be a lot of things that we take for granted in our various municipalities and localities, that, things just aren't going to be getting done. Some things are going to be falling through the cracks, and maybe some funding in different places is not going to be there any longer because these cities don't have the money. And if they can't make it all up through taxing, you know, you know, what is that? Retail taxes or entertainment tax and hotel tax. If you can't make it up through that, then there will be some budget shortfalls. So we'll see who it's going to hurt the worst. There are some predictions out there, but we will have a watchful eye. And my prediction is that the doggone thing is going to pass, because most people are going to say, hey, get rid of property taxes. Look, what is there to think about? But there are going to be some things to think about, and there are going to be some repercussions, and we'll find out more about that. I'm Lisa K. Crawford. I am loving being in the space, and you guys be patient with me, and we'll be having some good topics, and eventually I'll have some guests, and I would love for you to subscribe to my channel, like it, and share it. For now, if you want to find out more information about me, you can go to my website, lisakcrawford.com, and it'll share some other sites and other things that I do. But I look forward to being back in the space with you guys again. Have a wonderful day and a great rest of your week. And remember, when it comes to your legacy, you must build it, protect it before you transfer it. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye-bye. See ya.